There's a place where the sea won't let you sink. The desert produces food. Ancient streets are sacred to billions, and young men and women can go from military service to building the next billion-dollar technology company. It sounds like 4 different worlds, but they exist inside one tiny country. This is Israel. And the deeper you look, the stranger, more complicated, and more surprising it becomes. Floating on the Dead Sea like magic. Imagine stepping into a sea, leaning backward, and discovering that your body simply refuses to sink. At the Dead Sea, this almost supernatural experience is real. Sitting between Israel and Jordan, the Dead Sea is actually a landlocked salt lake, and its shoreline marks the lowest exposed land on Earth. The secret behind its famous floating effect is extreme salinity. Its water contains roughly 340 grams of dissolved salts per liter, making it close to 10 times saltier than typical ocean water. That concentration of minerals makes the water unusually dense, so the upward buoyant force on your body is much stronger than in an ordinary sea. Lean back carefully, and the water naturally supports you near the surface. The experience becomes even stranger when you look around. Pale salt formations line parts of the shore. Desert mountains rise nearby, and visitors often cover themselves with the region's dark mineral-rich mud before rinsing off. But this spectacular lake is also undergoing a dramatic environmental transformation. Fresh water that once flowed into the basin has been heavily diverted, while evaporation remains intense in the hot, dry climate. The Dead Sea has therefore been shrinking for decades. Geological research links the falling water level to the formation of more than 6,000 sinkholes along its shores, creating risks for roads, beaches, and infrastructure. By 2026, Israeli researchers are using satellite radar, LiDAR surveys, and artificial intelligence to improve detection of ground subsidence connected to sinkhole formation. So the viral image of someone casually reading a newspaper while floating is more than a travel gimmick. It is a visible demonstration of physics in one of Earth's most extreme environments. Here, you can feel density and buoyancy with your own body, while the changing shoreline tells a much larger story about water use, human activity, and the fragile future of a natural wonder. Jerusalem. One city, 3 great faiths. There are cities with thousands of years of history. And then there is Jerusalem, a place where history, religion, and modern life collide within just a few square miles. Sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Jerusalem has been conquered, destroyed, rebuilt, and fought over repeatedly across thousands of years. Yet today, its ancient streets remain alive with worshippers, residents, merchants, and visitors from around the world. Step inside the walls of the old city, and the scale becomes almost unbelievable. Covering less than 1 square kilometer, this compact maze is traditionally divided into 4 quarters: Jewish, Christian, Muslim, and Armenian. Within walking distance of one another and some of the most important religious sites on Earth. For Jews, the Western Wall is one of Judaism's holiest places of prayer, connected to the retaining walls surrounding the ancient Temple Mount. Visitors often place handwritten prayers into cracks between its massive stones. For Christians, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is traditionally associated with the crucifixion, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. And for Muslims, the elevated compound known as Al-Haram al-Sharif contains the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of Islam's most revered sacred places. The result is something difficult to experience anywhere else: Church bells can echo across ancient rooftops as the Muslim call to prayer carries through the city, while Jewish worship continues at the Western Wall below. But Jerusalem is not simply an archaeological monument frozen in time. By 2026, it remains a living city of roughly 1 million residents and also one of the world's most politically and religiously sensitive places. Questions over sovereignty, access, archaeology, and sacred spaces remain deeply contested. That tension is part of what makes Jerusalem extraordinary. Here, a walk of only a few minutes can carry you between civilizations, religions, and historical eras. Few places on Earth compress so much human history into such a remarkably small space. Tel Aviv, the Middle Eastern city that never sleeps. If Jerusalem feels ancient and sacred, Tel Aviv can feel like someone hit fast forward. Here, Mediterranean beaches meet glass towers, crowded cafes, tech offices, restaurants, and nightlife that can continue until sunrise. In a country famous for history stretching back thousands of years, Tel Aviv represents a strikingly modern side of Israel. The city was founded in 1909, when Jewish families established a new neighborhood outside the ancient port city of Jaffa. Over the following decades, it expanded rapidly. Today, Tel Aviv-Yafo has a population of roughly 500,000 people, while the wider metropolitan area is home to several million, making it the economic heart of the country. One of Tel Aviv's biggest attractions is its coastline. The city's Mediterranean waterfront stretches for kilometers, with beaches, cycling paths, outdoor gyms, cafes, surfers, and volleyball courts woven directly into everyday life. Walk inland, however, and the atmosphere changes again. Rothschild Boulevard is surrounded by restaurants, businesses, and historic architecture, while areas such as Florentin are known for street art and late-night culture. Nearby Jaffa offers an almost surreal contrast, with an ancient port and stone streets sitting beside the modern city. Tel Aviv also contains one of the world's largest concentrations of buildings associated with the international style, including thousands constructed during the 1930s and 1940s. This architectural collection, known as the White City, was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 2003. But Tel Aviv's famous energy exists alongside a more complicated reality. By 2026, daily life here continues to be shaped by Israel's wider security situation, economic pressures, political demonstrations, and regional conflict. That makes the city's reputation for constant movement even more striking. Silicon Wadi, the tech powerhouse in a tiny country. How did a country with fewer than 11 million people become one of the world's most famous technology hubs? The answer can be found in a network of startups, universities, research centers, investors, and multinational companies often called Silicon Wadi, a name inspired by California's Silicon Valley and the Arabic and Hebrew word for valley. Israel's technology scene is concentrated around Tel Aviv and central Israel, but important research and development centers also operate around Jerusalem, Haifa, and other cities. Over decades, the country has developed major strengths in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, medical technology, semiconductors, agricultural technology, and defense-related innovation. The numbers help explain the reputation. By the mid-2020s, Israel had thousands of active technology companies and startups. High-tech industries accounted for roughly 1/5 of the country's economic output and more than half of its exports in recent years. Israel has also consistently ranked among the world's leaders in research and development spending relative to the size of its economy, and global corporations noticed. Companies including Intel, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Nvidia, and Amazon have established significant research, engineering, or development operations in Israel. Some arrived through acquisitions of Israeli startups, while others built local research centers to tap into the country's engineering talent. So why did this ecosystem become so powerful? There is no single explanation. Israel combines strong universities, government-backed research programs, venture capital, immigration of highly educated workers, and close connections between military technology and the civilian startup sector. Specialized military units have also become an important source of technical experience for some entrepreneurs, especially in cybersecurity. Israel's markets, where street food becomes a sensory overload. If you want to understand everyday life in Israel, forget the skyscrapers for a moment and follow the smell of fresh bread, grilled meat, spices, coffee, and sweets. Two places capture this experience especially well: Jerusalem's Machain Yehuda Market and Tel Aviv's Carmel Market, Makhain. Yehuda began developing in the late 19th century and eventually grew into one of Jerusalem's best-known gathering places. Today, its narrow lanes contain hundreds of stalls, shops, cafes, bakeries, bars, and restaurants. During the day, vendors shout prices over mountains of fruit, vegetables, nuts, spices, fish, meat, and freshly baked bread. Then, after many traditional stalls close, parts of the market transform. Metal shutters covered in street art come down, music gets louder, and restaurants and bars bring a completely different crowd into the same alleys. Around 70 kilometers away, Tel Aviv's Carmel Market delivers another version of the experience. Established roughly a century ago, it sits near some of the city's busiest neighborhoods and has become a popular destination for both residents and visitors. And this is where Israel's cultural diversity becomes something you can actually taste. Foods associated with Jewish communities from the Middle East, North Africa, Europe, and elsewhere mix with Palestinian and broader regional culinary traditions. You might encounter hummus, falafel, shakshuka, stuffed pastries, grilled meats, pickled vegetables, tahini, fresh pita, and the sesame-covered Jerusalem bagel. One especially recognizable street food is falafel, fried balls typically made from chickpeas, stuffed into pita with vegetables, pickles, sauces, and tahini. Another is sabich, a pita sandwich commonly filled with fried eggplant, hard-boiled egg, salad, tahini, and amba, a tangy mango condiment with Iraqi roots. By 2026, these markets are more than places to buy groceries. They are living snapshots of migration, religion, family traditions, nightlife, and cultural exchange. In Israel, history is not only found in museums and ancient ruins. Sometimes you can discover it in a crowded market, one bite at a time. Mandatory military service. Why both men and women serve. For many young Israelis, turning 18 can mean something very different from simply starting college or finding a first full-time job. Under Israeli law, military service is compulsory for many citizens, including both men and women, making the Israel Defense Forces one of the world's most closely watched conscription systems. As of 2026, the standard period of compulsory service differs depending on sex, role, and individual circumstances. Many men serve for roughly 3 years, while many women serve for about 2 years, although some positions require longer commitments. After completing regular service, some former soldiers can also remain eligible for reserve duty. Women have served in Israel's military since the country's early years, but their roles have expanded significantly over time. Today, women can serve across a wide range of positions, including intelligence, cybersecurity, aviation, border defense, search and rescue, technology, and certain combat units. This makes female soldiers a highly visible part of Israeli public life. But the system is more complicated than the phrase, "everyone serves." Israeli citizens do not all face identical obligations. Exemptions, deferments, and different service arrangements exist for medical, religious, family, and other reasons. Most Arab citizens of Israel are not required to serve, although some volunteer. Military service for ultra-Orthodox Jewish men has also been one of the country's most controversial political and legal debates, especially as rules and court decisions have changed in recent years. The impact goes far beyond the military itself. Service can shape friendships, professional networks, technical skills, and career paths. Some veterans from intelligence and technology units later enter Israel's startup and cybersecurity industries, creating another connection between national service and Silicon Wadi. The Negev and Masada, a fortress above the desert. Imagine climbing through darkness before sunrise, surrounded by almost complete silence. Then the sun appears over the mountains, the Dead Sea begins to glow below, and an ancient fortress emerges from the desert. This is Masada, one of Israel's most dramatic archaeological sites. Masada rises on an isolated plateau near the Dead Sea, at the edge of the Judean desert. Its cliffs tower roughly 400 meters above the surrounding terrain on the eastern side, creating a natural fortress that seems almost impossible to reach. More than 2,000 years ago, King Herod the Great transformed this mountain into an extraordinary fortified complex, constructing palaces, defensive walls, storage rooms, bathhouses, and sophisticated systems for collecting water in an extremely dry environment. Masada later became famous for events surrounding the First Jewish-Roman War. After Jerusalem fell to Roman forces in the 1st century, Jewish rebels held the fortress until a Roman siege brought resistance there to an end around the year 73 or 74. Archaeologists can still see traces of the enormous Roman siege system surrounding the mountain, including camps and the remains of a massive assault ramp. Today, visitors can reach the summit by cable car or climb the famous Snake Path. Sunrise hikes have become especially popular because the view stretches across the desert toward the Dead Sea and the mountains of Jordan. Farther southwest lies the Negev, a vast desert region covering more than half of Israel's land area. But desert does not mean empty. The landscape contains enormous erosion craters, rocky valleys, wildlife, archaeological remains, small communities, farms, and research centers. One of its most spectacular features is Maktesh Ramon, a giant erosion crater stretching roughly 40 kilometers from end to end. Standing above this landscape reveals something unexpected. The desert is not empty at all. It is a record of geology, ancient engineering, survival, conflict, and thousands of years of human history. A country built by immigration, Israel's human mosaic. Walk through an Israeli and you may hear Hebrew, Arabic, Russian, English, French, Amharic, and other languages within the same neighborhood. That diversity reflects one of the most important forces shaping modern Israel: immigration from communities scattered across the world. Since the establishment of Israel in 1948, millions of Jewish immigrants have arrived from Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, the former Soviet Union, Ethiopia, the Americas, and elsewhere. According to Israel's official population statistics, the country's population had grown beyond 10 million by the mid-2020s. compared with only about 800,000 people around the time of independence. The result is an unusually complex cultural landscape. Jewish Israelis include families with roots in places as different as Morocco, Iraq, Yemen, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, Romania, Ethiopia, Iran, France, Argentina, and the United States. Large waves of immigration repeatedly changed the country's language, food, music, politics, and economy. One of the most remarkable stories involves Ethiopian Jews. Major operations during the 1980s and 1990s brought thousands of Ethiopian Jews to Israel, including Operation Moses and Operation Solomon. During Operation Solomon in 1991, more than 14,000 Ethiopian Jews were transported to Israel in roughly 36 hours. But Israel's diversity extends far beyond Jewish communities. Roughly 1/5 of the population is Arab, including Muslims, Christians, Druze, and other communities, while additional minority groups contribute to an even more complicated social picture. That diversity does not mean integration has always been easy. Different communities have faced discrimination, economic inequality, political disagreements, and debates over identity and representation. Immigration created opportunities, but it also produced difficult questions about how people from dramatically different backgrounds build a shared society. How Israel turned desert into farmland. Imagine looking across a dry landscape where rainfall can be extremely limited, then finding fields of vegetables, orchards, greenhouses, and computerized irrigation systems. In Israel, farming in arid regions became more than an agricultural challenge. It became a laboratory for technologies now used around the world. One of the most famous breakthroughs is modern drip irrigation. Instead of flooding an entire field, drip systems deliver small, controlled amounts of water directly near a plant's roots. Israeli engineer Simcha Blas helped develop the technology, and the company Netafim was founded in 1965 to commercialize it. Today, drip irrigation is used internationally to improve water efficiency in agriculture. Water scarcity also pushed Israel to search for unconventional sources. Wastewater recycling became especially important. By the 2020s, Israel was reusing close to 90% of its treated wastewater, with much of it directed toward agriculture. The country also developed major seawater desalination infrastructure, reducing its dependence on natural freshwater sources for domestic supply and indirectly freeing other water resources for different uses. The Negev Desert became a testing ground for this approach. Farmers and researchers experimented with precision irrigation, greenhouse cultivation, drought-resistant crops, sensors, recycled water, and even brackish groundwater. Agricultural research institutions also study how plants respond to heat, salinity, and limited water. And in a world facing population growth and increasing climate pressure, that experiment has significance far beyond Israel. A tiny irrigation tube developed for dry fields became part of a global agricultural transformation, proving that sometimes one of the biggest innovations begins with something as small as a single drop of water. The Kibbutz, the communities that tried to share almost everything. Imagine living in a community where farmland, businesses, meals, and major resources are shared. Important decisions are made collectively, and traditionally, members receive similar economic support regardless of their jobs. For more than a century, Israel has experimented with exactly that idea. It is called the Kibbutz. The first kibbutz, Degania, was established near the Sea of Galilee in 1910. Early kibbutzim were built around agriculture, collective ownership, and strong ideals of equality. Members worked on farms, ate together in communal dining halls, and shared responsibility for education, childcare, and everyday community life. In some early kibbutzim, children even slept in communal children's houses rather than permanently in their parents' homes. The movement expanded dramatically. By the 2020s, Israel had roughly 280 kibbutzim, with close to 200,000 people living in these communities. Together, they represent only a small percentage of Israel's population, but their historical influence has been far greater than their numbers suggest. And modern kibbutzim are no longer all traditional farming communes. Beginning especially during the economic crises of the 1980s, many introduced major reforms. Some adopted different salaries based on occupation, privatized housing and services, or allowed members greater control over personal income. Agriculture remains important, but many kibbutzim now operate factories, technology companies, hotels, tourism businesses, and other commercial ventures. The kibbutz story also changed dramatically after the Hamas-led attacks of October 7, 2023. Several communities near Gaza suffered devastating attacks, deaths, kidnappings, evacuations, and destruction. In the years that followed, rebuilding these communities became part of a much larger national debate about security and recovery. From floating on the Dead Sea to ancient Jerusalem, non-stop Tel Aviv, desert farms, and the kibbutz, Israel is a land of striking contrasts packed into a remarkably small space. Which of these stories surprised you most? Tell us which one you want to explore deeper in the next video.